After all the pre-match build-up hype, after all the excitement, after all the anticipation that we collectively had as a fan base for this massive game this weekend, I think we have to be honest that this was quite anticlimactic. Now, just because this was anticlimactic, does this mean that this was a terrible game, a boring game? Does this mean that we were playing too safe and didn't do enough to get the 3 points? I wholeheartedly disagree with this. If anything, this was a tight, tense, tactical affair played by two teams in the peak of their powers right now, under managers who are great tacticians in their own right. So this was exactly how I expected this game to be played today, and if anything, I think both teams won today. For Spurs, of course, I think they played for that point in the second half. There was no tactical changes by Mourinho. If anything, he was happy to have his team just keeping in their own half, keeping the low blocks, keeping their shape, and, just fighting it out, grinding it out to get this 1 point. So, based on that, yes, they won because they're currently leading the table right now, and of course, this is what Mourinho wants. It's not about winning every single battle, it's about winning the war right at the end. And this is something that we understand from Mourinho, because when he was our manager, it was the same thing that he used to do with us. For the first half of the season, we'd attack, and for the second half, we looked to just, retreat, be compact, defend very well, and of course get that title win in the end. So they got the result. One positive for Spurs, and for us, I felt that we were the better footballing team. We created the most danger. I felt like the players would have left that pitch today feeling aggrieved and feeling frustrated that luck just wasn't on their side in a few certain moments. We were so close to scoring today. Spurs made some individual mistakes to even give us these opportunities, so the fact that we weren't able to take advantage of them, but if anything, the momentum is still going strong. And in today's match for you guys, I'm going to break down the moments, players, tactics, etc, etc. But before I do that, I need to get one plug out of the way first. Today's video is brought to you by OneFootball. Now I'm going to use OneFootball to discuss the lineup before I get into the main part of the match review, and again, I think we all knew that we were going to be playing a 4-3-3. I wasn't expecting Pulisic or Havertz to start in this game, knowing the fact that they just came back from injuries recently. So this was the strongest lineup on the day we could field. Yes, I understand there was some controversy that Hudson-Odoi wasn't playing, but when you've got Pulisic and Havertz on the bench, and yeah, you're not going to just have bare attacking players on the bench when you already have enough already. So I'd imagine that Callum's going to be playing against Sevilla. And just even looking at the lineup today and looking at the amount of yellow cards we picked up, the players really took serious what Lampard said about game management, obviously doing the dirty side when you have to, and playing to win. So the fact we picked up 4 yellow cards today and so many fouls reflected the tight game today. And you guys, if you want to see more facts, details and stats, I suggest you download the OneFootball app. You'll find a link below in the description. Now let's move on into the first half. I thought the first half was, wow, it was very tight. Very, very tight. I thought that both teams made it quite 50-50, especially for the first 30 minutes in the game. With Spurs, I thought their tactics were quite interesting and they created some danger, especially in that first half. Now, with their game plan, of course, it was about what they did in the transition. So what they were doing was, with their wide players in Son and with Bergwijn, they would actually move more infield, moving into the spaces in behind your Mason Mounts and your covers. Now, the main reason for this was that once they received the ball, they had an option to either run through the spaces and attack the space, or, which they did most of the time, create overloads down the flanks with, late arrival runs from your Reguilons or your Serge Auriers. And by doing this, this pinned us back into our own half. This meant that we had to keep a low block and a low shape, and these were the most prominent, dangerous moments from Spurs. Again, for me, this lasted at least 30 minutes before Lampard made the correct decision to change the formation in-game, and from that point on, we had more attacking threat going versus Spurs. But with us, on the other hand, we did find it quite difficult to create those attacks down the right-hand side like we tend to play. Now, of course, we tend to focus our build-up down the right to free up spaces down the left-hand side, but Spurs were very good today in minimizing any threat in that first half. This meant that for the first 30 minutes, Ziyech was kind of on the periphery throughout the entire game. We didn't see a single Reece James cross until after this period as well. And the fact that our best source of creating attacks was limited, that we could still create threats down the other flank and through the middle as well. You know, it does tell us how far we've come from last season, because now we have more options and more ways to combat teams and cope against them. And for me, this is what top teams have to do. You know, they need to have this dynamic flexibility. They have to have the possibility to create different options too. And from doing this, we created one of the best opportunities in the game, which was Crawley ruled offsides. It was an unreal finish from Timo Werner. Great play down the left-hand side. I thought Mason Mount made the right decision finding Werner instead of Ziyech. And my thinking's this: if I'm Timo Werner busting my ass to get inside the box, I want that pass. I want that ball. And I think Mason played a perfectly weighted pass. Just a shame that the timing just wasn't exactly on point. But after that, really, chances were quite sporadic. And now I do want to move on to the formation change that really just turned things more in our favor, gave us more opportunities to create attacks for Spurs. And this was us becoming, I think, a diamond in midfields, a 4-1-2-1-2 or a 4-3-1-2. Now, I'm a bit confused because at times I was seeing either like a Cover or Kante being the ones to receive the ball from deep and obviously, you know, progress the ball further forward, find men further forward upfield too. But, you know, there was constant interchanging, and this is one thing I keep stressing about for this season in particular, is that now we are really a more fluid, dynamic, tactical team where players are going to interchange positions. They are going to swap formations as well dynamically. And I do think as we keep persisting with this style of football, we are really going to just reap the benefits in the long term. So yeah, this was great to see. And the beauty of obviously changing the formation was that now, number one, the fullbacks would then get further forward, and we had a different source of breaking down Spurs. As I was saying beforehand, before the formation change, I didn't see a single cross from Reece James. I think it was the same thing for Ben as well. So, but the fact that they were able to find positions higher up the fields meant that we could then pin Spurs back. And by doing that, it meant like your Hakim Ziyech could then move more centrally in field, alongside players like your Mason Mounts who can make, you know, late arrivals from deep and cover as well. So by doing this, we created overloads in the central areas. We were able to go toe-to-toe versus the Spurs players in midfield too, and it was no surprise that once we started playing like this, it was just defend really deep, keep their blocks really low, and hope that they could find a mistake from us to get something from the game. So, you know, this is a typical Mourinho way of playing. We've been there, done that, we've seen it all before. But yeah, I really like some of the things I was seeing, in particular from your Tammys and your Werners, of course, playing up front together. You know, both these strikers are allowed to drift wides, and that's important to help create overloads on the flanks. So the fullbacks have those options to play balls with, pass, etc, etc. And of course, it creates a space in behind for your Mounts to run into, etc, etc. So this is what I've been stressing about for a long time. And, you know, it's not like Lampard is like the only manager to do this. I'd say Nagelsmann is just like a massive example of this type of tactician. I'd say last season at RB Leipzig, I think they played like 6 or 7 different formations. So again, expect the same from us this season. But to continue on, especially to move on into the second half as well, I was thinking that with how we're playing now, surely we're going to create that opportunity that's going to win us the game. And a few times I thought we had done it earlier in that second half. And to be honest, for a guy of his skill, his craft, his genius, the fact that he kind of sliced under the ball, he didn't get his body on top of the ball, especially from a location like that on a stronger left foot. For me, I might have to say that was the biggest miss of the game, because I'm thinking, Ziyech, man, I'm expecting you to bury that ball. So that was quite frustrating in that sense, because in a game like this, you really desperately need that first goal to be scored to just change the complexion of the game and to create more space, especially in the transition, which was not able to be done. So again, there were some half chances from Tammy Abraham, some half chances from Werner, Giroud, etc, etc. But to be honest, on the basis of things, this was a pretty even game between both teams. Of course, before I end the review, I want to speak about a few players that stood out for me today. One player in particular for me was N'Golo Kante. I know that he's got some slight criticism in regards to the fact that, okay, We know that Kante can play this role when he's not being pressed, but what about the big games? What about teams that are going to press high? Can he really do that? I think this whole argument just needs to become extinct because Kante is world class. Today, I thought he was very good at limiting your players like your Harry Kanes. I thought he was very good at winning those second balls and supporting out other players in our own half when it came to combating the Spurs players. This is the beauty of having Kante. He intercepted the play, he broke balls up time and time again, and for me, the reason why we're so good now is because we have a fully fit Kante sitting behind the midfield. So he was great today. I thought that Mount was industrious. He was looking to take responsibility. Very unlucky that his long range shot didn't go in the back of the bottom corner of the net. But again, you're seeing the personality coming out. You're seeing the confidence. You're seeing the improvement in his abilities as well. And again, there were so many small positives that we can take forward into other games. Another player that looked good for me today was Ben Chilwell. Now, wow, I mean, this guy low-key is very, very strong. Very good upper body strength. He was winning so many second balls and tackles that I wasn't really expecting him to win. And of course, he is just world-class aerially. I think that's very safe to say. How many fullbacks can defend better in the air than Ben? Name me one. I'd love to know. And for my final player that stood out today, for me, that was Tammy Abraham. Now, I really like the development of Tammy. You know, I've always understood and sympathized that when you're playing this role against defenders in this country that are like 6'3", weigh like 200 pounds, of course, there's going to be times where he looks a bit clumsy on the ball because it's hard to hold off these types of guys and then play beautiful football. But already this season, we're looking at him, seeing him a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident. And I think with how he's playing now, he's not being used in such a limiting way. Last season in particular, it was really more of focus on his movement in behind and off the ball. But this season, you know, Tammy is the one that's dropping really deep to, you know, hold the play and become a focal point up front. He's going for balls in the air. He's making runs out wide. And to be honest, I was kind of being reminded of Didier Drogba a little bit in his performance. So again, Tammy is still very young. He's a great professional, works very hard, exceptional player. I've always said I've got very high hopes for him as he keeps developing and improving, and I really do think that he is going to become an elite striker for us. But there you guys, that was my match review for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys took something away from the game that maybe you didn't realize at first. I'm EFC. This is Blue Lions TV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos.